Hello and welcome to a Saltwater Edge Podcast first. Today's guest is our first returning guest ever.
All right.
Pete, it's good to have you here, man. You did a great job last night with Narragansett Surfcasters. It's a great club, good turnouts, passionate group, and you had them all jacked up. It was great. And you were personally too. You get pretty fired up.
Yeah, I get pretty excited. It's fishing, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know that the term came up. And I loved your response to it when someone used the word legendary. And you're like, well, first, I'm only 47, right? I'm still here, plugging away, if you will, right? But I do think of you as legendary in a couple of categories. So if you give me the courtesy here. Enthusiastic, legendary enthusiasm. They don't call you the smiling tan man for nothing, right? There's that. Your commitment, to the craft, to the ins and outs of surfcasting itself, but also I want to call you out for your commitment to the species you pursue and the conservation. When we had our first ASGA meeting at Orient Point, you busted your ass out from the firehouse to get there, and there was 8 people in the room at the very beginning.
Yeah, I remember.
And I appreciate the fact that you stuck your nose in there, and something I was like, you took me on faith and you showed up, and it was we've really got something going now, and it's because of guys like you, so thank you.
No, I appreciate being invited to there. Was for me was extremely eye-opening to get to be in a room with people that study striped bass and care about striped bass, yourself included, and Craig, and to see Steve Musso from a lure builder. There were just so many different facets. There were anglers, there were shop owners, there were everybody in the industry kind of came together to just see what's going on.
Right.
Like, what can we do to help?
And there's that, and that's been the energy of the whole thing. The fact that we've got these different stakeholders, if you will, and then it lines up for recreational anglers. What we're pursuing. So, thank you for that. The other is legendary in my mind is plan.
You got to stop with that word.
Is planning. You had this expression used last night. We're going to visit it later in the podcast, but spend time to make time. And we'll go back to that. But that's a commitment. I find myself, I have all winter, and I print out the tide chart for Newport, the whole thing from April to November. And I've probably only got my highlights done through the end of June.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And you probably know where you're going to be on the August full moon.
I'd like to. I like to plan ahead of time and just have. I like to have options.
Yes.
Like I talked a little bit about last night. Yeah, a couple choices.
Yeah. And then the other thing I think of is 2 more. And I'll stop. Is a lifelong learner. I feel the same in that you said it last night. When I do talks, I think I feel the same way. I'm there to share for sure, but I'm probably leaving with something. I'm going to learn something. Somebody's perspective, somebody's take, somebody's tip, and that's how But if you're pursuing it that way, you give and you get.
Yeah, I literally learn every single time I fish. Either it's something to do, something not to do, and that's why I like talking to new people. Is I learn from them.
Yeah.
Like last night, I learned 2 tips I knew I was going to.
Yeah.
You see a room like that, that's legendary. You go to a room
and
you see guys that have been fishing for so long, and a lot of times, especially the guys who really know and that are shy, they don't say anything till the end, but then they come up and be like, hey,
what about
if you're right?
Yeah.
And they're very specific, so they were listening to stuff, and they say, if you change just this, like wow.
Yeah.
And that gets you, and those are the tips that they're legends. That's how you learn.
Absolutely. From
them. Yeah.
And then the last is legendary for a good time. That Vero to Key West drive was, I never laughed so hard, and then the fishing itself, where it was kind of tough on the tarpon and the snook to begin with. That day in Key West, tremendous, and the eats and all of it, just great.
Yeah.
So.
Speaking of legend, Craig Cantelmo is a legendary awful driver. We cannot let him. Craig, you ain't driving the rental car anymore when it's in my name. That's why I sat in the back. Legendary awful. Craig.
There we go. So there's 11, but this dude's only 47, so he's still here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, and enjoying fishing very much so. There are definitely some legends out there, but I'm not one of them.
You hold them in high regard, that's for sure. So, but you retired. So we just had a quick chat before you started, and I noticed the bracelet, and those are the folks from your firehouse from 9/11, and you yourself were not on the fire department at the time, but you'd already submitted an application to the academy or something like that, right? And then you've had your career really since 2011, 12, and you've now retired.
Yeah, I was hired in May of 2002.
Yeah.
So I was the second class after 9/11.
Yeah.
We went in, and since retired. I did 22 years in ladder 7. Quick, right?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
And,
God, that's such a memory, though. I mean, ugh.
Yeah, that was a tough time for New York City and everybody, but the world came together,
Yeah.
and here we are.
One of the things I think that makes the laugh so hard is, in some ways, that firehouse life has made you bulletproof. There's no insults.
No,
you can't get to this guy.
Oh, yeah. Anything you're going to say to me has probably been said to me in 100 times worse by a lot meaner people. So it don't. I come to do a talk. Or like, do you mind? We got you a hotel here. I'm like, bro, I sleep on the floor. I sleep in the fire truck. I sleep in my truck. Like, I'm pretty easygoing, and I think all fishermen are, and that's the good thing.
But I was going to comment. I think that firefighting career, which included overnights and all that stuff, built you to be very good at this in a way, because you live in New York City, you fish obviously Montauk and places like that a fair amount, so you're making that drive. That Long Island Expressway is a nightmare. And you put it in. That's commitment, and I think, but also you can operate through being pretty damn tired and everything else.
Yeah, I mean, as a surf fisherman, that sleep deprivation definitely affects how you plan, how you fish, the people you fish with. Like, it's always good to have a fresh person coming in, because they're like, oh, bonehead, what is going on here? You're like, what tide is it coming in, going out? Stick to the plan. All right, you're right, and then that pays off. But yeah, being a fireman helps in many different ways too, as a fisherman.
So that this retired smiling tan man, you've built it around 12 months of surfcasting in a way, because you've gone on some adventures, and they always involve big fish you call alphas, but more like it. And I think of the time we spent together in Northeast Florida, the Baja trips, I guess it was Portugal pretty recently. I know you've been to Alaska. Norway, was it, or something?
Norway, yeah. And Norway's awesome.
Yeah.
I can't wait to go back.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah.
So maybe a couple of, and I know and then obviously put all this time in between at least New Jersey and Maine, it seems. You're bouncing, always bouncing. The Northeast Florida, I think people have a particular interest. It's great to get down there a couple of weeks ago with you. And you had a house and a bit of a guide business going. That's evolving some. Do you want to share with people what your plans are? What's the status of that?
Yeah. We started. I started the guide business probably 5 or 6 years ago, bringing friends down to fish, because it's great to fish down there. There's plenty of room. There's plenty of big fish. They're pretty easy to pattern. So you have a good. And there's so many species.
And a time of year. It's not like there's great fish. If there's great fishing in June, no, too bad. I'm not leaving.
Yeah. No, exactly. And I target fish down there pretty much from December until the end of March, when we don't have a lot of fish up here.
Yeah.
And it's a quick trip. It's an easy flight, and we get to target all these huge alpha fish, which is cool, and multiple species. So if we have wind out of the east for 3 days, you could fish this species of fish. You have wind out of the west for these days, you can go fish these species of fish. Here you kind of are pigeonholed to striped bass, bluefish, fluke. It's whatever we have around. So if you have an east wind and it's not good for your spot here, you might as well stay home. Right. Down there, we just say, okay, we're going to switch the tackle and go for something else. It's
jacks, tarpon, and snook primarily, right?
Jacks, tarpon, snook sharks, blacktip sharks, and redfish. But yeah, tarpon and blacktip sharks and big jacks and snook are my favorite. Yeah, I mean they're all my favorite. Yeah. Anything that makes that drag.
I'm not going to put you on the hook to tell us which one is your favorite. And maybe we'll go back for a little bit of quick. At the end of a podcast, I generally ask for a couple of tips, and I might do that in the context of these couple fisheries. Baja's Roosterfish, right?
Yeah, I usually fish on the West Coast. It's close to Puerto Vallarta, but Roosterfish and Cubera is the next bucket list fish for me. I haven't got one. Yeah. I haven't even had a strike from one in a couple of years, but I've seen them caught. And I've tried to target them. I targeted one whole trip for them. Yeah. It didn't pay off at all. So I'm coming for one of those big boys.
Yeah, because now we're talking about the Sea of Cortez, and Baja Peninsula sticks down and has Mag Bay on one side and basically not Puerto Vallarta, Cabo San Lucas at the end. And then Puerto Vallarta is on the
West Coast.
West coast of Mexico, and it's a steeper coast, better surf casting. The Baja side, a little flatter. That's where you might see the roosterfish up on the cruising the beach a little bit more. Do you have that, or do you have more of a drop-off?
Huge drop-off.
Okay.
It's more of the surf casting we do here, where we have big waves, huge drop-off, and you can sight fish them. You can actually sight cast them, but most of the time, just to be able to reach that backside of that first wave is 50 yards. So it's a cast. It's a lot of blind casting. It's a lot more fishing like kind of we do, thinking structural-wise. A lot of times guys think roosterfish, you just go to top water. But I learned from fishing with the locals and talking to them that there's fish here. Just because you don't see them on top and ride your quads and chase them, you can fish them by the tide, by the current, by the structure, and fish just like we do.
Sounds like the same thought process you use at home.
Same thought, all over the world. It's a fish. If you're looking for an alpha fish, they all eat the same way. Everyone.
So, would this be soft plastics like NLBN jig head stuff, or is it more like magic swimmers and mid-water column? I mean, what is it? A
little bit everything.
Dial it.
You got to dial it in. Find out what they're eating, where they are, and then try and put something in front of them and get them to eat it.
Bluefin tuna in Portugal eat what? That picture was unreal. That was just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. So I was in the Mediterranean. Yeah.
Don't care.
It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter where. But I had lost the tuna. My fishing partner Chris had hooked one about 7 years ago.
Chris being Voorhees?
Chris Voorhees. Here. And then
oh my gosh. Here.
Not here in Newport, but here where we fish.
North America.
Right. And we had talked a lot about it. We'd known there were some tunas close, and I've heard of surfcasters hooking them here or there. And then I hooked one last year when we were filming some more Magic Hour stuff, and it's all on camera. And I didn't win. But from that point on, I said I wanted.
You were ruined.
I was ruined. I was ruined, and I wanted payback. And I'm friends with people from all over, and one of my buddies said, "Hey, we can try a do-it-yourself trip here. It's really not that hard. Just you got to get a flight and a rental car." And I called Robbie Taylor, and I said, "Robbie, I know nothing about flat fall jigs or jigging for tuna. Can you help gear me up?" And he did. And I came in your shop. I picked up some jigs here, and I flew over. I met my buddy, and I said, "Hey, what are we going to do?" He said, "I'm not really sure. We're going to go look." And he's like, "I'm going on the boat with my friends the first day." So he went with a couple locals, and I had an Airbnb. He's like, "These are a couple points that stick out. Check them out." So I checked out one, and there were tuna everywhere. And I'm like, "Oh my God!" And I didn't get one to eat. And of course, a little bit of local knowledge. We talked to the guys that were eating sardines. The tuna had been there for a while, so when they first show up, they're very aggressive. They'll eat anything. Once they settle in their pattern, they only eat the small.
And the bait's still milling around. So
And they're protected over in Europe. They've been protected, so the bluefin tunas come back. And they come tight to shore to eat. And
I was at the American Saltwater Guide Association Science Symposium last Friday, and this guy, Walt Gillette from Maine, is a scientist, doctor, probably, Walt Gillette to do it properly. But it's very interesting. Quite a bit of the population, there's a huge population inside of the Mediterranean Sea. Not up and down the coast like we think of it, but inside of it. And then you see some parts of the world, and I haven't done any homework on it, but there's a lot of surf casting for like giant trevally and stuff like that too.
They're on the list too. I'm going to get one of them too.
That thing, I've caught one. It's wild, and just like roosterfish, it's hard to get your brain around the closing speed. If they see it, and you're like, "Oh, I got to cast this thing again," and they're like 10 feet in a flash and slam something as hard as you've ever had to slam.
The first one I hooked, I didn't sight cast, but we'd seen them coming. We saw them. They were coming in on the bait. They would come within 10 yards of us sometimes, and we were fishing 100 feet of water off cliffs. But the first one I was casting, and I was working the bait, usually working off the bottom. And I saw them coming, and my buddy's like, "You see?" I'm like, "Oh, I see him." He's like, "Pick up the retrieve." I'm like, I already had it up and was like this, and I see this huge shoulders coming, and I think my mouth must have just dropped, and the next thing I felt wasn't a thunderous hit, it was just a take. And I'm like, "What was that?" And I'm like, "Oh, I know what that is." And I kind of like a strip, strip set, I right back in the thing, just took off, and I tuna, and then the reel starts blistering, and then he's gone. So I'm like, damn it, spit the hook, bring it in. Didn't spit the hook. I got back my braid with a perfectly tied FG knot. It had pulled, I didn't lock the FG, and it had pulled the leader out. We were using light leader, and it was my fault. I didn't lock it down the right way. You want to talk about heartbreaking.
Yeah.
This could have been I only got 4 bites in 8 days, which was like 16, 17 tides. So I was like, that could have been my whole trip because I did something wrong. Crushing and seeing that fish come in and eat it, like it came, big fit, whop. I'm like, so needless to say, I went home and tied FGs for probably 3 hours that night, and, until my hands were bleeding. I said, these are not. That's never happened.
That's not going to be the reason.
No, it's not going to be. And I was lucky enough to get another shot and stuck them.
That brings me to my other, one of my takeaways from your talk last night is that idea of take time to make time.
Yeah.
And that's what you just described. So I know it's a fire, something you learned in your fire training, and I think of the military has an expression, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And this guy's still trying to learn that because I just go fast and it's a wreck. You have to check it. So it sounds, I really thought that was a great way to describe your approach. I've fished with you and I've seen how you work. But starting off with maybe some of the tackle prep ideas that come out of this take time to make time. I think of it as planning and preparation, right? And then process. Oh, look at me, planning, preparation, and process. No. I mean,
you got a new one for your talk. There you go.
I do.
Yeah.
Because the preparation. Talk a little bit about you're always ready for an alpha. You said something similar to that, and I've heard like other people say, in terms of striped bass, prepared to catch an 80.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're overbuilt, right? So talk about that in terms of. Some of your tackle choices, some of the habits you have around, I think of hooks, I think of retying, some of this stuff I've watched or heard you speak of.
I just think that you always, when I go fishing, and I talked a little bit about it last night, is that an old timer told me, he wasn't that old when he told me, he's old now. No, yeah, he may have been 48 when he told me that, but he's probably 68 now. But he said, first thing when you start fishing, you just want to catch fish. Then you want to catch lots of fish. And then you want to catch big fish. And then you're probably going to eventually revert back to just being happy fishing. So for me, I want to catch big fish. That's where I'm at. And every fish that hits a plug, I think of is that alpha fish I want to catch. Whatever that alpha fish for that area is. Say it's early season, super early season, and I know the biggest fish is going to be 20 pounds. I'm geared up to catch a 40. Yeah. If I'm going to catch a fish that's 40 pounds, I'm geared up to catch an 80. And because I don't want my tackle to be the reason that I lose a fish. My preparation. So I've seen too many times. A lot of times you put yourself. We all work, especially as a surfcaster. If you see a boat guy, unless he's top notch, like Robert,
Robbie,
like Robbie or RT down in Florida, where the stuff's perfect. A lot of boat guys say you can see their stuff isn't totally prepared because they're going to get another shot. We don't get another shot. If those fish come in, you have one shot when they're coming in, and then they're at the next reef. That next reef for a boat is a throttle it up, and you got another shot at them, retie on the way. For me, that could be a bike ride, a swim,
45 minutes in the car.
45 minutes in the car, and they're gone. So I really believe a lot of times you have one shot, and you have to make it happen. And if it's your tackle or your preparation that fails, that's on you. And there's too many. That's a factor that you can influence. You can't influence what the fish is going to do, the structure it possibly gets to, the hole you rip in its mouth. You can't influence that, but you can influence your hook bending out, your line breaking, your FG pulling. These are all things you can change, and I want everything stacked in my favor. So I want my gear heavy. I want to know what my hooks are. I want to know the strength. I want to know the breaking point of everything, and I want to put the max pressure on that fish. So when I get him in, I can unhook him and let him go.
Sure.
and take a picture.
Tying that out to your firefighting experience, you told the story of like you see it and you're like, let's go, and you have to.
Yeah, I mean that came from a personal experience. What I talked about last night was a personal experience.
It's important that it's another way to apply the same concept.
Yeah, you can't get excited, and we all get excited. I'm super excitable, especially after 2 coffees or an energy drink. I'm ready to go, man.
Go.
Yeah, dude. So, but I'll get excited, and you miss things in that excitement. We all want to rush right in there and get it done and have fun and do whatever. But if you take a little time, you make a ton of time. And a quick firefighting story, I'd been a fireman for a while, but I was new to the rescue company, and the latter companies are where we use the tools and we go in and search for people. So I was new to that, and it was fire on the 2nd floor, which is pretty easy, and it was right there to see, there, right? All right, and my job was to break the door down. I'm going to be the first one in and go look for people. Right, this is the real deal. 2 a.m, we got fire ripping out the window. Here we go. Possible somebody trapped. And as I walk, I'm hustling. I'm going to beat everybody in. I'm going in, and I go up the stairs, and I get to the 2nd floor, and there's no smoke, there's no fire, and there's just an old woman in her nightgown looking at me, and I'm like, is this 224? She's like, no, this is 222. So I went into the building next to it. I completely. Now I have another guy following me, and he's like, "Well," I'm like, "No." Everything worked out. Back downstairs, up the stairs, and in we go. But if I had taken 2 seconds to just look and say 222 and 224, very basic as it gets, but I didn't take that 2 seconds. And you learn in fishing that if you, when you're like, this knot's good enough, knot's not. If your head says maybe that knot's not good enough,
if you're convincing yourself that it's
cut it off and retie it, you're going to be okay. That 10 seconds that or a minute that it takes you to retie might save you a whole season of that one fish that just ate that plug. Even if you don't think that fish is going to be there, it might be there. That 45,
that's
52.
The stuff you can't control, so you got to be prepared.
You have to be prepared.
Gotcha. One of the other aspects, so that was prep, one of the aspects of planning is, I heard you say last night, you like to have plan A, B, C, because you might say, I want to go here, and there's 3 or 4 rocks you want to be on, and what if people are on those rocks when you get there? What do you do? And you want to have, I'm going to go B, or maybe even C.
Yeah, we can't influence. Those are other things that we can't influence. Who's going to be there? Is there going to be mung in the water? Is the weather the wind app wrong? Right? It's supposed to be 8 out of the northwest. It's 18 out of the east. Or something's wrong.
No, that technically wrong happens a lot.
A lot.
You have to make a game day.
And if you're not prepared to have 2 or 3 other spots to go to, then you're stuck in that one spot, and now you've wasted that time. There's a reason you went there. The reason you picked your spot.
Exactly right.
And now you picked that spot and you did everything to get there. You took your time off from your kids. You spent some money to drive there, and now you get there and you can't fish it the way you want.
Right.
I want to have A, B, and C. So I say, all right, well, okay, A is not going to work. Let me go try B. And if B doesn't work, let me try C. At least I'm putting myself in a position that night to give myself the best shot at that type of fish that I want.
Sure. And you think the things you mentioned last night, were wind and tide, and where's the body of fish, and so the body of fish is a network thing. I mean, you fish a lot yourself, but you've got a network. Tide, you can look it up in a chart, but wind influences it, right? And you're right, the app might be wrong. So there's you can do a lot of preparing, but I can left to in between that is if you don't prepare, you've just left so many things to anything could happen.
Which you can't have, right? You don't want to, me personally, I don't want any variables. I want to influence everything that I can possibly influence at that time. And then whatever the ocean or the fish throw at me, I'm going to ad-lib. But I want to be able to say, okay, this is happening, I've got that plug. Okay, this is happening, I'm going to do this. Okay, this isn't happening, let's get out of here and make a move. And at the end of the night, I want to feel like, all right, I get skunked all the time, more and more recently.
And you learn from those.
And you learn, but I don't mind going home skunked, saying, okay, all right, it just didn't happen tonight. It's frustrating, you're like, oh, it should have happened, but I don't want to go home and say, I could have done something different, I should have done something different. Be like, all right, I made a plan, I stuck with it, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
Then you write it down. All right, my plan didn't happen tonight. Why?
Yeah, and tell me a little bit about your log.
That's pretty much. I'm not very specific on my logs. I do something a little different than other people may do. But and it's cheating a little bit. It's for years. What I would do is when I would fish with other guys, and I still do. If I hear of a bite that's legit firsthand, like Peter got a 48 at Brighton Point, on October 6th, I'd write down.
I do the same thing.
Peter.
That's not cheating.
Okay.
That's definitely not cheating.
And then I'd say, Chris got a 47 at here, and I'd write it down. But at the end of my season, I would take out a calendar, and I would write down
Map it.
every big fish that was caught and where it was caught and what the wind was, and I would write it down. And then the next year I did it, and the next year I did it, and then after you've done that 3 or 4 years, you can literally say, okay, it's April, all right? There were big fish caught here, 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 here. What's the wind tonight? It's east. Okay, nope. Oh, nope. Yep. Nope. Nope. All right, can I get to this spot within an hour? Yeah, all right, this is where I'm fishing tonight.
Yeah.
And it all lines up because those fish show up in the same areas within a couple days of each other.
Sure.
So and especially on the moon phases, I'll have it highlighted and I'll say, okay, it's June, new moon. Where did the big fish come up? All right, they had a couple of mariches, they had a couple in the canal, they had a couple here, and what about the next year? Oh, I see mariches again. Oh, what's the next year? Oh, I see mariches again.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. So what is the wind I need to fish mariches?
Yeah.
This wind. Okay, so that's where I'm going tonight. And it kind of lines up. That's how I...
Yeah, it's a matrix, if you will, with a couple of, but the wind, the tide, which you can know the tide, but the tide gets influenced by the wind, and then that over time analysis you do of
it'll show you
almost
where to be, or where you want to try to be.
Yep. So it really, I've been doing a talk lately called Strategy Before Tactics. And it's the idea that the very best anglers, the 40 plus podcasts I've done, all these, whether they're in surf or fly or jig and pop or whatever, there's some takeaways, and you've hit on them already on preparation and planning, are 2 of them, right? But this last one, you made a comment last night, and I was surprised. I was started taking notes on the first things out of your bag. Your bag really is sparse.
Yeah, it's pretty simple.
Yeah. Can you describe the process? And then I heard about 5 by 5 by 5 where I wasn't paying attention, and I heard it said. I said, so I need to follow up on that. Can you? And we're talking about stripers because you probably have a different sparse bag for Baja or some of these other places that you go. But let's just stick with the striper one.
Yeah, I mean, we could do it by actual lures, or I pretty much have a fish finder, a current finder, and something to cover water and distance.
Yep.
Something that's going to find current, and something that I know a fish is going to hit if it sees it. Not definitely eat, but hit. And I think a lot of times if we're going to be as a fisherman, you're always in front of fish. And as a surfcaster, you have to believe it.
Yes.
We don't have side scan. We don't have Garmin.
Right.
This is what we got.
Yeah.
And you close your eyes.
And we don't have an engine to go fix it.
No, and you're like this the whole time. So you have to, in your mind, believe that in front of you is a group of fish, right? There they are, sitting in the current. And every cast I take, I have to believe that there's fish there. And they're not always going to eat. But maybe I can convince one to hit it. And if he hits it, now he's telling me something. Okay, I'm here.
Yeah.
Hey, look, I'm here.
Yeah.
All right, good. Now I can start.
Spot within a spot.
Yeah, spot within a spot. I'm going to start dialing it in. Okay, he didn't eat the needlefish, but he bumped it. He's going to eat that no live bait needed if I get it to him, but I can't get it to him. What's the next closest thing that I have in my bag? I don't care what color it is. I don't care what size it is. I want to know where that fish is, and I got to get him to eat it.
It seems like that is a big... Not a bet, it comes from experience, but they're opportunistic feeders. We don't know if it's, 50% of the time, 70% of the time, 90% of the time. But if you show them an SP minnow, which might be the wrong profile, or the darter, which might have a lot more action than the predominant bait, or whatever, these things aren't quite right, but it's there.
Yeah.
And there's a term that the guy from Woods Hole Biologic Labs, I'll tell you, his name's Scott, but Scott Bennett, but I'll give it to you. But it has to do with that the diminishing returns. If they're going to put in 2 calories of energy, they need 3 calories of food. It's a nice scientific term. I'll text it to you when I dig it out of my notes. But it's absolutely that choice. Here's this SP minnow. Might not be what I wanted, but
here it is.
Profiled bait versus the herring or whatever I'm chewing on. Here it is.
Yeah, well, I mean,
so if you can just get it to them, which is what you said.
I want to find feeding fish, and if it's great when you watch, now that you have all these YouTube videos, you can watch. So before, when we used to keep fish, you would open it past his belly, and what would it have? Mantis shrimp, eels, bunker, and herring, right? Maybe the same fish, and they're all like kind of whole. So that means that thing's ate that in the last 24 hours. That's 5 different profiles that swim in 5 different parts of the water column. So you're telling me I got to use a burple darter with a front thing and a back taily little thing? And the fish doesn't care. If he's going to eat, if he feels like he's getting more calories than he's giving up, and he's eating, he's going to eat it. You also watch bass in the Cape Cod Canal on videos, and they have peanut bunker all around them, and they're just sitting there doing their thing. It's like, why are they not eating? And then something happens. And all of a sudden the peanut bunkers start turning pink because they know they're going to get eaten, and boom, 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 and the bass are blowing them out of the water. What happened? Something happened. Those fish were there, and the bait was there. They just weren't eating. I don't know why. We're not fish. But, hopefully we have bigger brains than the little pea brains. But that's my idea, is always to try and find a feeding fish and get something in front of it that says eat me. And I carry 4 plugs, pretty much 4 or 5 plugs. A Super Strike needle, red eye, because it casts the furthest and covers the most water. A Super Strike bottle plug, because it also casts really far and it picks up current, so it tells me where there's current while I'm fishing. A darter, because I can move it very slow in the current.
You made a point about wood and plastic.
I use so darter-wise, I'll use a wood one in deeper water, or if I want it to swim more, and a plastic one. The Super Strike plastic darter is the most universal because it doesn't dig that deep. It casts pretty good for a darter, and it's pretty easy to feel when you have current with it. Wooden darter casts better, digs deeper, so a lot of times you can't fish it on a sand beach.
So does that become 8 feet or what? I mean, it's hard to judge.
Yeah, it's hard to judge. Wind, how fast I'm reeling, what's going on. But so a wooden darter, I feel like a North Bar wooden, or a Sport and Wood wooden darter, or a Beachmaster, the 2 that I like. They'll swim out once you get it out of the rip, so it gives it a little bit more fishy time. A Super Strike swims when it's in the rip, zigzags, and then when it comes out of the rip in dead water, it's flat. And the only way then to get a strike from that is a slow retrieve like a needlefish and a twitch, and get it to
do some of that.
Now a wooden darter will do this in the rip, and then when it comes out, it does this. A good wooden darter. So you have a little bit more fishy
versatility.
time.
And you're right, because once you're out of the rip, you still want to be presenting, and if you lose a swim, good point. One of the things that had me make a note last night was your point about the bottle darter and how it's a current finder. Why don't you spend a second on that?
So this is not my theory, and a lot of things we're talking about.
I heard it here first, though, so that's why you're proper to share the credit for sure.
My fishing partner Chris Voorhees, he doesn't only throw metal lips. He throws other stuff. He throws other stuff. A lot of soft plastic in that guy's bag in the summer. But his metal lips, of course, are crushers, and we all carry them.
They're legendary.
That's a legendary. That guy gets legendary status, and he's a legendary plug maker and a legendary human.
And human.
He's a pretty good dude too. So one night we were fishing, and I noticed he was catching fish, obviously, and I wasn't. And I said, hey, "What are you throwing?" And he said, "Oh, I'm throwing a bottle plug." And I'm like, "Wow, we're fishing pretty dead water, or we're fishing a boulder field where you would think you would throw a metal lip between the boulders, or a riggy, or a soft plastic." And I was like, "Why, for distance?" And he's like, "No, I can feel the current." And I was like, "There is no current." He's like, "No, there is current. There is current." And I'm like, he's like, every time I get in the current, I get a hit. I'm like, well, that makes sense. But so I tried my little plethora of stuff, and I didn't have a bottle plug with me. And the next night I went back, And I started casting a bottle plug, and I saw what he said. You would reel, nothing, twitch, nothing, and then you'd catch the current, and the rod tip would go, boom, 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 boom,
Thing's
boom.
working.
It's working, and then all of a sudden, nothing, boom, boom, boom. But we were finding the current seams around the boulders and where they were. So he was using the bottle to find the current, and then switching to a plug, and casting accordingly to where that current was and catching fish. And I said, oh my God, this is genius. And once I did that, I said, I need to carry this with me everywhere I go, because even a sand beach, you might think you're fishing dead water the whole time because you only have 10 yards of current that's coming between those two bars that might be out there. But that's the 10 yards the fish are in.
You eat out the idea that the ocean's huge and the fish are in just a couple of
tiny little spots. And if you can find that current, that's what I use. I mean, I use the bottle to catch fish because it catches lots of fish. But I'll throw it out and I'll nothing, bump, 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 bump. I'm like, oh, okay. I got to come back to that area with something else.
You mentioned, and like I said, maybe I was talking or something, but what was the 555? If it's something to cover, please do. If I missed it, I just wrote it down as a quick note knowing we were talking today.
I like to move a lot, so in my head, I try and picture the area I'm fishing, where I think the fish are sitting, and then cover that a couple times with each lure. So every lure that I carry with me, I'll never carry more than one brand new lure, because I want to have confidence in everything I throw. So I want to look in my bag, and as crazy as we are as fishermen, remember each fish that lure caught. Like, okay, this one caught this one caught that. I know a fish is going to eat this thing.
Right.
They eat it all the time. Yeah, it's proven. So after 5 times throwing that lure in that spot, I say, all right, there's not a fish in that part of the water column that wants to eat my super strike needle. Let's see if he wants to eat the NLBN. 5. No. Okay, he's not that part of the water column. What? Maybe he wants to eat the bottle. Nope. Maybe he wants it fast on an SP minnow. Nope. In my head, there's no fish feeding here. I'm going somewhere else, or I'm working a different piece of structure.
Right, and the I did. You said you kind of survey a place, and I want to put some time into that. I want to put some time into that. You might find one with the bottle darter, like you just described, or there's an inlet over here that you know you need to, right? But that's how you break that ocean down in your mind, right?
Yeah,
there's planning and preparation puts you at spot A. Then you have to execute.
Yep.
And doesn't always go.
No, according to plan.
Right.
No,
yeah,
never.
Exactly right. You can't overthink it. I mean, it's the idea that people keep logs and all that kind of stuff to sort of inform their choices, but it won't guide their choices. They got to get there and think.
Once you're there, then you have to just go with what you got. You might be like, oh, okay, this is what I thought, but that's not happening. Or there's feeding fish on top at night. Holy shit! All right, what do I got to do? All right, I got to pop that needle fast. Or But I do. I'll go to a structure and I'll say, all right, that if it's I like boulder fields because they set up year after year the same. Sand moves around. But I'll say, okay, I want to be here and I'm going to work this area for a half hour till the water moves too much. Then I'll work this area for 5 for 5 plugs is 25 minutes. So there's a half hour. Okay, I put it in here. No bites. All right, we'll put it in here. But
also you didn't stay wed to a place. You didn't stand for an hour and a half and pound the shit out of it. Right?
No, I'm gonna go, or I'm gonna do something different, change an angle, do something. I won't do the same thing over and over, but that's also a detriment to how I fish because I've many times left spots to find out big fish have come up from that spot.
Well, you stand on a rock. Which isn't going anywhere, and so if you don't make conscious choices to mix it up, because I see, I get in routines, and it's just you have to think about it, and I also recognize that sometimes I'm not as disciplined as I need to be in like counting something down, you know what I mean, like a bucktail or something like that, and how many years have I been doing a nice bucktail swim, 10 feet above the fish.
And he's like this, and maybe that 58-pounder was sitting right there. Drop the tip, Peter, drop the tip.
But you're right, you can always second guess. But the point is, you got to get out there and execute with your plan, but with your instincts and take in what.
Just have confidence in, that's what I think the most important thing is confidence in how you fish. Not how somebody else fishes, not if your go-to lures are a redfin, a hydro minnow, an ounce and a half bucktail, don't put in a super strike needle, a bottle plug, and because somebody else catches on it. Go with a red fin, bucktail, and a hydro minnow, and maybe one other lure. That's new to you. And then fish what you want, because what you want's going to catch. And that's what I learned from fishing with other guys is I'm like, what are you, the perfect example, last year I was having a terrible spring, awful. I was second guessing everything I was doing. I wasn't catching any fish. I was in a very fishy spot with another guy, and I was watching him fish it completely wrong. I'm like, what is this guy doing? And all of a sudden he catches a fish, a nice one. And then he catches another fish. It's raining, it's shitty, it's 2 a.m. So I knew he's a fisherman. Then I haven't caught a hit yet. And then he gets another one, and it's a good one. And I walk over, and he's like, hey man, I hate to do this. Can you take a picture? I'm like, yeah, it's a hell of a fish, dude. And now I'm taking a picture, but I am looking to see what he's got on his rod, because what is this guy throwing? And I said, fuck, super strike darter. It's blowing like 40 in our face. And it's a little bit of a crosswind and a cross current. And we'll take a picture, let it go. I'm like, hey, nice fish, dude. He's like, oh, yeah, that was awesome. He's like, do you have a yellow super strike darter? I'm like, yeah, you're throwing a darter? He's like, yeah. I'm like, there's no way it's getting anywhere. He's like, the fish are right here. I'm like, all right, whatever. So I go over now. In my head, I'm still throwing the bottle plug because I can get it out there and feel the current. Nothing. He gets another fish. I'm like, that's it. Fine. Super strike darter. He's casting the wrong direction with the wind. I didn't do everything he's doing. Up in the wind, whack, fish. So who was doing stuff wrong? Me. Who was doing stuff right? Him. And who was telling us? The fish. So examples like that, now every time I fish that spot in a heavy wind, I definitely have 2 darters with me in case I lose one, because that's what the fish want in that spot in those conditions.
I think people sometimes, all of us, whether you like to catch fish on top water or something like that, you force a hand that you shouldn't, and you said it last night, and all the great fishermen say words to this effect: they don't miss, right? I mean, I've got stories about it. You probably got better ones, but the idea of if they want it, they're going to eat it. You're betting. Your logic is: here's this matrix of 4 or 5 lures, and they're different parts of the water column. They feed opportunistically. If I get it to the fish, they're going to answer me.
Yes.
Either hit it or eat it. Or not. Right.
Or not do it.
That becomes a All right.
Yeah, that's just yep.
Cool. Let me take a quick second here to take a break. This podcast is brought to you by Saltwater Edge. Go to saltwateredge.com to check out the latest in surf, fly, light tackle, and jigging gear. We have hundreds of 5-star reviews for our same-day shipping, advocacy for our resources, and our passionate crew of anglers. We're ready to answer any questions about tackle or tactics from bonefish to bluefin. Use the code TANMAN, all caps, to get free shipping on your next order.
There you go. How about that?
There you go.
I got to work on this tan. It's Memorial Day weekend. It's freezing out, dude. Yes. What is going on out there?
So, you also had a nice kind of tack you took last night called cheat codes. And you had a couple of them, but I pulled on one of them because I wanted to know more. You said you're looking for a change of light, of pressure, and of current. And you made the point, and there are a lot of nodding heads, the difference between current and tide. That's a whole bunch at once, but let me break it down. I understand what the change in light would be. And a change in pressure is barometric pressure, and just to give people the definition of what barometric pressure is, at sea level, a normal barometric pressure is around 29.9 HGs, gigahertz or something, who knows, or atmosphere, or 1 atmosphere. A high or rising barometer usually associated with steady and clear weather and bright, and then a falling with storm and like we're about to experience, right? And so I thought it's appropriate to talk about it, but barometric pressure can be confusing to some folks, so I wanted to give them a definition. But you're looking for change in light, in pressure. I think daybreak, sunset is light, right? But talk about pressure, and then talk about current in terms of what you're looking for.
The main point I was trying to make is I like to stack the deck in my favor. Like, if you can put all 3 or 4 things in your favor, I'm giving myself a better chance. So obviously light, you talked about sunrise, sunset, moonrise, moonset.
Good one.
Pressure, there's 4 of them. The pressure is, like you talked about, I like a low pressure system, the start of a low pressure system. You, as humans, we can feel low pressure. You instantly felt it this morning. The first thing you said to me, damn, it's cold out. I said, man. But There, you see, I love it. Look at the hair, right? So this is what low pressure means to me. It means that the fish are going to feed. They know a storm's coming in. They need to eat. And it also is associated with clouds, which help us. And
knock down the light.
Right, and now you're going to have rain. It's a low pressure system is going to get fish feeding somewhere. If you're fishing in a low pressure system and you're not catching, you have to move and there's fish around. There's no question. I don't know how far you have to move because we know our fishery isn't in the strongest, but you have to move. And then current fish, especially big fish, I find like to feed on the switch of the currents, which is a little bit of an anomaly because you are now spending a lot of time fishing slack instead of fishing heavy current. Because
So you have an incoming, you have a period of slack, and then you have outgoing, and
that's tide, right? Tides.
Yeah. Okay.
Now current, you do the flood. And then the ebb and the slack. So the incoming tide will correlate with the flood to a certain point until it evens out in the back. So your flooding tide coming, your rising tide is going to fill the bay. And with that comes the current pushing in. And then it'll continue to push, the current will continue to come in
even though the tide's
dropping. And so that's the flood and, the flood and the ebb and the but I always like to find when that flood current starts to slow to the slack. And now nothing's going to happen during the slack, and then as it picks up to the ebb, it's going to start again.
And I heard some words to the effect that in that slack, some of the prey has a little bit more say in what they're doing because the current isn't pushing them around.
Correct. Right? So they're going to come out. They're going to start feeling comfortable. Say, okay, now
finally again after whatever
6 hours I've been hiding behind this rock. I'm hungry, and I come out to eat. And now there's the bass to smack you as soon as the big bass is going to say, okay, I know it's time for me to slide in.
I still have less work.
They're doing way less work, and now they're going to get a chance at a big meal. While their little friends are running around
chasing the silver sides, they'll smack a black sea bass.
Right. Exactly. Okay. Or big Voorhees.
All right. And so you also, what is the impact of moon tides on current? That was something I didn't quite wrap my head around last night. You were saying how it shortens the window. It
shortens the window. It makes it much more acute, but it shortens it. So you'll have, the currents can be a lot stronger and then dies off a lot quicker.
Dies off quicker. There's an inflection up and down.
Correct. If you check your apps that show current or can correlate it with the tide, it's a much bigger swing. And so you're going to have a much harder current, and then it peters off really quick.
I can now see it in a tide chart in the curve. Now I understand what you're describing.
It's going to go like that, and it's this little part that you want to be there for 10 minutes or 20 minutes to catch that really big fish. And so you have 20 minutes on one side, 20 minutes on the other is 40 minutes. That's one tide of the day. And then the next set of tides, you have 40 minutes. So you have 80 minutes at a chance at a big fish. And now you have to put in the other parts of, is it during the daylight? Okay, now cross those big fish off 90% of the time. Is the moon up? Okay, now I can't fish this one. So you can really kind of dial into that one little tide window you want to be fishing and what to be throwing to try and get that really big fish. But that takes, you have to only want to catch that fish.
That's part of your alpha hunting. That's your logic. You're built for 80.
That's what I'm trying to catch.
So a spot within a spot we talked about. Now we talked about a time within a tide that's really a current. Got it. Okay. And I'd just like to wrap up on the fact that right now we're in just approaching Memorial Day weekend. There's a storm coming up the coast. I was surprised how many people at the meeting last night. I would have thought someone would have been out on the water.
They rushed out of there, a lot of them. They were like, hey, great time, but I got to go fish.
So can you talk a little bit about how you think about storms in terms of before, a couple comments maybe on during and after?
So this was just a trial and error to learn, I used to really like to target, especially in the fall, the storm. The nor'easters in it. I wanted to be, like Craig says, the teeth of the storm. But I talked to a couple big fish fishermen over years, and they kept saying, hey, you ever see us out here during a storm? I'm like, no. They're like, you ever get a really big one during a storm? I'm like, I saw some big ones come up. Like, you ever get a really big one? I'm like, no. And they're like, because the storm is so hard to fish, and a lot of those big fish, unless there's a ton of bait there getting pushed in, don't want to feed during that. So I like to target right before the storm, like
Now.
yeah. Right before.
We'll get you out of here.
right when the pressure starts to drop and everything starts to get shitty.
Yeah.
I want to do that. And then I really don't like targeting right after the storm because I feel that everything's now gotten jumbled up.
Dirty,
and then you have to go hunt them and find them again. But if you're a day or two, like by me in Long Island, or maybe New Jersey, or maybe even here in Rhode Island, but definitely in Long Island where I fish, if you can find where those fish are coming into the inlet to take cover during the storm and correlate that with where there's been bait in the back, all those fish coming down the coast,
they're going to be happy in here.
They're going to be happy in here. And this isn't my theory. This is also an old timer taught me, but that if they come in, right, why are they going to rush back out? They're not. So I'd want to know where is that bait in the back before the storm happens, because that's the first place I'm targeting.
I keep them.
Right, because it's going to calm down, and now those big fish are going to feel comfortable. Okay, I'm in the back. I just found acres of bunker.
Look at this.
Look at this. Why am I going anywhere?
Let's go.
I'm going to stay here. And that's when you get that 47-inch fish that looks like fucking like this.
Yeah.
You know, that's when you get that 50-inch fish, and you're like, because they've been eating 12, 15 bunker. They're not out front fighting currents, working hard.
And probably not feeding very efficiently for the junked up water.
No.
You know, the sand, the weed, all of it.
Yep.
Yeah. Great. So the buildup, and then the theory also that either they go in, like you described, and you'd want to know where that bait was, or they go out, in which case it's a waiting game.
We can't do anything about that. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. Great. So you did share. Let's just do on the wrap up, because you've done this before, and what I do at the end is I ask for a couple of tips. So you've got this experience in Florida, in Baja. You've already talked through your Northeast first out couple of lures. Could you describe maybe a couple that you that are proven for you, for those that might be interested in a trip to Northeast Florida? They could check in with you, they could find out what the status of your guide business is, but lure-wise, what would they be?
Florida, I do kind of the same thing. 4 or 5 lures. North Bar, flying squid. It's by far the best cast. It's by far probably the best overall lure that I've ever used for saltwater fish. It's mainly a daytime thing, but you can throw it at night. So flying squid in white or something bright. A North Bar bottle darter, because that's a big profile, holds very well in the current in Florida. A couple different paddle tails. I like the NLBN stuff just because it's aerodynamic and it holds up to the fish, and the hook's good.
And big.
Yeah, and big. Yeah, I use the 8-inch a lot of times, and a Super Strike bottle for the same reason. I can get it to swim, and with those 4 or 5 lures, I can cover water, every part of the water column, and I feel comfortable fishing inlets, open beach, and even the back in the rivers with that stuff.
Sure. What's the heaviest of those? Since I think you've used a big fish fisherman, and it's not the case that a heavier jig is somehow better, but what weight jigs do you find? Heads do you find yourself using most frequently?
A lot of times the beaches in Northeast Florida or Southeast Florida, both. It's a little bit. There's a little bit of a drop off, and you're fishing some swell like we are here. I'll throw mostly 2 ounce on the open beach to tarpon and jacks and sharks sometimes too. 2, 3, and then down to as low as a like half ounce if I'm fishing. In the back, or if I'm fishing super tight to rock structures when there's snook. Like we had to refill my bag. You were nice enough to get me some stuff because Craig lost all my lures. Not the bad knots. He ties his knots fine. They were big fish, and we were being nice to the fish. So
how about with you? What have you found to be a couple favorites in Baja?
Flying squid, stick shad.
Stick shad.
Big time. Heavy stick shad. It also holds under the water. A heavy Super Strike popper. And same thing, NLBN stuff. I mean, honestly, that complement of lures is also what I brought with me overseas. It's what I bring with me to all around the world. If I had to pick
This is where I was going.
Yeah, if I was going to
go.
fish anywhere in the world, it's not going to change very much.
Yeah.
A handful of NLBNs, 5-inch and 8-inch, because depending on what I cast or profile. North Bar flying squid, a Super Strike bottle. That's it, dude. It'll catch them all.
Yeah. You mentioned SP minnow last night.
Yeah.
Stick shad.
Yeah.
Rig sluggo, big rig sluggo.
Yeah, especially for bass and tarpon. Yeah, the tandem rid, the way that Steve McKenna rigs it.
Yeah. Great. Well, so here's the closing question. You've been asked this before, but now you're retired and you've had a couple of alpha adventures already.
What's next?
Yeah, exactly. So you got one day left on Earth. What are you fishing for and where? Not exactly where.
Man. I've been asked this, I think maybe you asked me before, and it's a surprising answer, I would think, is a sand beach for schoolie-sized fish on a sunrise into a daytime bite.
Yeah.
No stress.
Yeah.
Waiters.
Just enjoying it.
Lots of guys around.
Yeah.
Everybody having a good time.
Social
where you
aspect,
could stop and you hang your tin up on your rod and you go over and you talk to the guy who's hooked up and you don't worry about like.
Don't feel like you got 20 minutes left in this tide.
Right.
I got it.
There's a light coming. Hide.
Yeah.
Talk to this guy. Like that's if I could do that, that would be. I would think that would be the perfect end to it, where you just see a couple swim back and you're like, hey, you want to go get some coffee? Let's go get some coffee.
There it is. Yeah. Well, man, it's beautiful. And I had a working title for this podcast. It's Surfcasting for Alphas, because I see you taking on these adventures. I mean, it's got to be, you've set yourself up for this and you're built for it. And good news is you're only 47.
Let's go, man. Let's go.
Thanks so much for coming in.
All right, thanks, Peter.
Take it easy,
Thanks.
buddy.
It's awesome talking to you.